Welcome back to the Grenadier podcast, Real Estate Uncovered. Today I'm speaking with Sarah McLeod, business owner of Harcourts, Grenadier, Halswell and Wigram offices. You obviously love this business. Tell me what you love the most about it. Today, an absolute exclusive. Welcome back to the Grenadier podcast, Real Estate Uncovered. Can you introduce yourself to us and tell us about your expertise in the real estate industry?
Sure. So, Sarah McLeod, I am the branch manager and one of the business owners of Harcourts, Halswell and Wigram.
And can you give us a bit of an update on what's happening in our residential market here in Christchurch?
Sure. So I've been in real estate for 16 years, and this, to me, it just seems like a normal market. It doesn't seem too imbalanced either way. And I think there's good opportunities, there's good stock out there, and with the right expertise, properties are getting sold.
Yeah, absolutely. If we look at the buying process to start, Sarah, what do you think the key steps are when you look to buy a home here in Canterbury?
Yeah, so your first home, I guess that was something I loved being involved with, working with buyers, and it can be so daunting for them because it's obviously such a massive, major decision for them. And I think when I look back and the people that I've helped, I think the best thing to do before you even start going out and looking at houses would be to write down your wish list, because you can get steered in different directions by, a beautiful looking home, but it's on the wrong side of town that you didn't even want to be in.
Yes.
So I think if you can just write down your basics and what it is you're actually looking for, then that's probably the key to getting started. Working with a professional as well, because if you're working with an agent, if you've got a buyer's agent, you just one contact with one agent rather than going out and looking at half a dozen homes on the weekend and you're getting phone calls from all sorts of agents. So if you can stick with an agent, and the best thing about that is that you can often get opportunities that aren't even on the market. Right. So that agent might know of a property that's coming up or a property that they might sell if they've got the right buyer, and we can connect you that way.
Yeah, that's a real advantage, isn't it? In terms of evaluating properties, what should buyers be looking at and looking for when they go to visit these properties?
Yeah, I think making sure that you have all the documents available. So you want to have the building report that you can view, the limb and title, and making really informed decisions, because I think often people, especially first home buyers, it can be a price thing. That's what they look at first, like, is it worth this? What price is it? Is it a deadline auction example? But getting all your ducks in a row, getting all the information is key when you're buying.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. I know a lot of buyers we meet say, gosh, we can't tell the price of property. And I think, that's a good reason to work alongside a consultant and be loyal to that consultant, let them do a lot of that legwork.
Yeah,
right?
They can do all the homework for you, give you a better idea of maybe what it's worth, recent sales in the area, because sometimes you might be, considering that property, but you're comparing it to a sale 6 months ago, and it's really not relevant. So getting all that information is just key.
Can you think of any little stories of recent times that, have been a great buyer story?
Oh, there's no better feeling in real estate than when you've been working a buyer and that hammer goes down and they've bought the house. It's just the best feeling ever. You're so happy for them. But I think, I've worked with a lot of buyers in my career, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there, that they can't buy at auction.
Yes.
Or they're not working with an agent and they're just drifting, they're lost in the market, they've got no direction and they're just finding it really, really hard. And one of my agents last year, she picked up a buyer and they had been looking for such a long time. They'd saved for years for their deposit.
Wow.
And they didn't have anyone helping them. They were just casually going to open homes every weekend trying to find their house. And when we met them, they said to us, we've missed out on 5 properties, and they were just beside themselves because every time that they were putting in offers, they were doing building reports and paying for limbs because they were trying to, win the offer.
Yes.
And then when you're in that deadline situation, you have no idea what someone else is going to offer, and they might miss out by $500 or so. So they were really at the point where they were thinking, should we just go traveling, spend all our money and go traveling? I'm thinking,
give it up.
Don't do that. You spent years saving. So put them in touch with one of my agents, and she was great. She was like, this is what we're going to do. And she showed them all these properties, but in a quick space of time. It didn't drag on like it had been.
Yeah.
And she got them prepared for auction, and they won that property at auction. And it was just the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
And I think if they hadn't been in touch with her, they never would have won.
Wouldn't have happened.
They wouldn't have got into the housing market because they just didn't have that guidance. And to work with an agent is free. It doesn't cost you.
I know
But
that
it could cost you if you don't. So yeah, they're the best stories. And first home buyers are great because they just genuinely love your help.
Yeah. And I think people underestimate the time it takes to really buy a home. And, I don't know what the median is, but I imagine that most first home buyers anyway spend a good 3 to 6 months,
Yeah, absolutely.
And every weekend you're giving up, your R&R time, and there can be a lot of disappointment. So having someone to hold your hand through that process is absolute gold.
And when you're a first home buyer, it's so emotional when you miss out on a home. You get really connected. But for a first home buyer to spend $700 or $800 on a building report and not win that home, it's really daunting. But with the auction process, at least usually there's the building report provided, there's the limb and the title, and we've got contacts that will check all of those documents for you, and it's about $290. It's not a huge investment, but at least you're turning up to the auction and you're bidding on a fair level with other
transparency.
people.
They can see the other buyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you either learn or you win, don't you? And if you don't get that auction, you're going to be better placed for the next one.
Exactly.
So Sarah, for buyers, it's not just real estate consultants they're going to be working alongside. What other people do they need to complete their due diligence with?
So really early on, a mortgage broker is key.
Yes.
Because sometimes you can borrow more than what you thought you could borrow.
Yes.
And sometimes not as much. So mortgage broker is absolutely key. Get that sorted first. A good real estate agent can recommend someone to you. Your mortgage broker, a lawyer, they're obviously going to be checking all the paperwork. So that's key to have a lawyer that's great at communication and that can help you along the journey.
Yes.
And along the way, you might need a building inspector as well, a licensed building practitioner, which an agent can recommend several to you, and then you can decide. So definitely working alongside the professionals, because it's teamwork the whole way through, is key, and getting those sorted early on.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And we don't want buyers suddenly thinking about a lawyer once they've written a contract. It would be good for them to go and see their lawyer and say, what sort of clauses, or if I'm going to auction, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And really speaking to that lawyer about the buying process.
And have everything checked.
Checked,
definitely.
yeah.
But you want a lawyer that's, going to, assist you along the way and have good communication with you.
Yeah.
And understand how important this decision is for you.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess they can also talk to you about other aspects of your life that are important once you've got a mortgage, like, wills and power of attorneys and all that. Yeah. So it's a big grown-up thing, isn't it?
It sure is, but we can help you.
Let's move over to our lovely sellers. For someone who's considering selling their property, for a lot of people it might be their first time in the market for 10 plus years. What are the primary things they need to consider?
So I think do your research is really important. Don't base your decision on commission. I hear that so often, that they're going with a company because they're going to save them money.
Yes.
Think about making money, not saving money. That's so important.
I agree.
And, interview a few people and pick the person that you trust to get you the best price.
Yes.
Not the person that's desperate and they're going to give you a deal on commission and they're going to pay for the marketing. No, that's just desperate. Just go with the person that you think I can trust them. They're going to get me the most.
Yes. And I think client testimonials are great for that, aren't they? And I know, our agents are happy to provide, give my last 3 clients a call, see what the experience was.
Yeah. Follow that agent, go to their open homes, see how they perform at open homes, how they perform in the auction room.
Yes.
It's all very transparent, but I think unfortunately people think, oh, I'm going to get a deal over here, I'm going to go with those people. And, you know, we've experienced it when people come back to us and they say, oh, we shouldn't have listed with them, you know, but they were cheaper. I'm like, well, you're still on the market.
Well, I know you recently had one of your lovely team take over a listing that had been languishing on the market for quite some time, and they sold it in an auction campaign in 3 weeks, didn't they? So
just changing the process, changing the agent.
Make sure your consultant knows all the different strategies.
Yeah.
And in terms of strategies, what marketing strategies would you recommend for our lovely sellers? Because obviously they only get one chance to do it well.
You do only get one chance. And again, it comes back to the money that you're going to spend. So don't look at something and think, oh, well, it's only, you know, X amount of dollars if I do this, but that's going to cost me more money. Obviously, the more exposure you get, the more people are going to come to your home, and hopefully the more people there are bidding. I heard an agent once describe it as the baking powder. You can have all the ingredients there, but you miss out something and it's not going to rise. The cake's not going to bake. So you want to have everything. If it was me selling my home, and I know when Hamish and I did years ago, we just threw everything at it because on auction day, you just know that you've got everyone there with 6 bidders, you know, and I was like, yes, it worked. So you got to do a big campaign.
Yeah.
You want your house up in lights, and especially when there's more properties on the market, you need to stand out.
Yes.
And we have to be across everything. So print media, social media, you've got to be doing everything. You can't just say, okay, I'm just going to go online or I'm just going to do print. You got to do it all.
The days of putting a sign out at the gate are over, aren't they?
I know, yes.
And I guess, you know, we're very focused on finding the very best buyer, not the first buyer. And as you say, utilising all avenues of marketing and all different sales methods.
Yeah. And put them in competition.
Yeah.
You know, we had an auction last week and it went on. It was Alison Atkins and it went on and on and on. And there was like $500 bids. But, you know, it tested the market. And honestly, it was from about 1.8 to 2.3 when it eventually sold that, you know, it just kept going.
Yeah, that's that emotional quotient that we can't measure.
See, but you know, she'd obviously had a great campaign with lots of people through and a really beautiful home. So,
and I think that marketing is so important that you mention, and it's not about saving money; it's about investing it for a return, isn't it? And being really business savvy about it.
Absolutely.
Are there any sort of, what would the typical time frame be that owners need to get their head around for selling here in Christchurch?
Yeah, so I think make sure you've got enough lead-in time. I get really frustrated with agents that come and go, okay, we've got this property, it's going on the market in 2 days' time. And it's like, no. When you go on the market, you want your home to be 100% ready. So any little things that you need to do around the home or any of the documentation you need. So EQC information, for example, if you need to provide that, that's 20 working days it takes to come.
Yes.
So my advice, and I always say to our agents, is make sure you've got all the documentation. So if somebody comes the first day it's on the market and they want to put in a pre-auction offer, they can, because it's got the building report, the EQC information, the limb and the title. And unfortunately, we've seen it happen a few times where 2 or 3 days before the auction, something comes up on a building report that means that the home isn't saleable on auction day. Maybe the floor levels are out or something. You just want to make sure everything's ready to go. So I would say minimum 2 weeks before it goes on the market. And then lots of open homes. I know it's not nice for lots of people, but you know, you want to make sure that as many people can get through your home as possible, and doing 2 open homes for half an hour a week is not enough.
Not the standard.
Especially when, you know, people put so much effort into the home.
Yeah.
So open it up as much as you can. Have all that documentation from day one ready to go.
Yeah, and I think preparing owners for the fact your home becomes a show home, right? And while it's on the market, it has to be show home ready at all times. And I think, you know, when we present different marketing strategies, them knowing that there's a time frame that they're going to work within. You know, sometimes when I go to do reserve sets, after 3 weeks, they're like, wow, you know, it's been full on. You wouldn't want to be sitting on the market for 3 months with that kind of intensity.
Exactly. You want to have that, you know, high profile campaign with the end date, whether
Yes.
it's a deadline or an auction, that end date, you can go, okay, we're all going to work really hard during this time period.
That intensive
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
Yeah, but we know that we're going to get a result.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
In terms of any key takeaways, where would people embark on their journey in the real estate market? What would be some key things that you would say to people?
I think align yourself with an agent firstly.
Yes, I agree.
So, go to the Grenadier website and you'll be put in touch with the right agent. And from there, I think, if you can have a meeting, sit down, talk to them about what you're after.
Yes.
And then the agent can tell you what exactly they can provide you, and then sort of teamwork from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any sense, or would you give any advice around people who are looking to buy and sell? Like, would you recommend they sell first and then try and buy?
Yeah.
It's a bit of an age-old question, isn't it?
I personally think that you should sell first.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people put under pressure. If you've got the luxury to do that, then great. But I think a couple of reasons. So if you need to sell your home, but you found the perfect home, you put in an offer, and your offer is subject to sale, quite often you've had to pay tens of thousands of dollars more than anybody else, because the other offers on the property might be just subject to finance, but you're subject to sale, so you're paying
You've got
a
to
lot
offer
more.
a premium, don't you?
Yeah. So say you're paying $50,000 more than anyone else to secure that home.
Yeah.
And then you take your own property to the market because you need to sell. Human nature is we think our homes are worth probably more than what they are. And you might have had to reduce your expectations maybe by $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So you've actually cost yourself money at this end and at this end.
Yes.
So I think if you could sell and maybe have a 3 to 4 month settlement date,
Yes.
it means that you've sold your home, you know exactly how much money you've got, and then you can go out house shopping and maybe buy well because you're in a...
You're in a cash position,
Yeah.
and the entire market's available.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you're not able to buy at auction, you might have only 60% of the market you can compete with. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
I agree. I think it's a tricky... Our children are about to embark on their first sale and purchase, and I've said to them the same. I'd rather see you sell first. You can always come home and live with mummy.
Yes.
But I think once you've sold, you know exactly what you're dealing
Yeah.
with, don't you? You know how much cash you've got to spend.
There's no stress.
And you've still got a good time frame, but there is some intensity to get something purchased.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you drift around the market. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get cashed up first. But of course, we'll work with everyone in their own
Yes.
strategies.
Yeah.
Sarah, it's been amazing speaking with you. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
How would people find more information out about real estate, do you think, whether they be buyer or seller?
Yep. Go to the Grenadier website. There's lots of information there, whether you're looking to buy, sell, or a career in real estate. So
Yes.
it's very helpful. So go there first.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.